beginning of the season, Clemson and Florida State came in very high on what 2023 could be. I think both teams had big goals for this season, and now they're in one of them is in that position. The other one finds himself looking for answers. And Florida State is that team that is coming in with a hot hand. They are playing really well. They're playing really good football. And Clemson started their season with a loss to Duke and appears to be struggling to find their footing. Even though they just had two wins, it was against Charleston Southern and FAU. So how much weight you put into that? Probably not a ton. FSU had a big win over LSU to start this season, and they are riding high off of that. These are two teams that consistently play each other tough. And Clemson has won 7 straight games. So how does Florida State find a way to win this game? I think that Jordan Travis plays a key role in this game, and we'll talk about that more in a little bit because the quarterbacks are vital to this game. But we'll start with, can Clemson's offense deliver? Cade Klubnik is entering a big season and a big game against Florida State, one that could determine I guess the ACC race here is who's going to win this game, and it determines who will be probably the champion. Honestly, I think a lot of people expect one of these two teams to win the conference. There are a couple other teams that could surprise, but I think everybody expects Clemson or Florida State to be on top. Clemson's offense had 2 good games and then a really poor performance against Duke. And I should say they didn't move the ball against Duke. I think that's one thing that gets overlooked, but the turnovers killed them. So they can't have that again because Florida State's defense is too good. Their offense is too explosive. You just simply cannot give the ball back to them. So this offense has to prove that they can get after it, get off the ball. And the biggest thing with that is separation. Clemson's wide receivers, one of the biggest knocks on their receivers for the last few years has been the inability to get separation, to make life easy for the quarterbacks throwing them the ball. They simply just don't get away from their defenders. The defenders are stuck to them like glue. And that will play a huge role because if you can't get open, then Cade Klubnik is going to have to force some passes, make some tough throws. And if he's doing that too consistently, then you're going to see more turnovers. You're going to see more 3-and-outs, and you're going to see Florida State take advantage of a team that's struggling. Big question I have for Florida State is, are they ready? Clemson's won 7 straight, and I think everybody, a lot of people, I should say, expect them to win this football game, but are they ready to actually do that? This is another step in their journey to taking over the ACC, and I think that they have the talent to do it. The key is the spotlight too big for them, or are they ready? Because there have been a couple years where we've thought that Florida State had a chance, and Clemson pretty much killed that right away. They silenced any doubt that was still left on their team. And it feels like this year's as good as we've seen since 2013, 2014, where Florida State has a chance. And now you're on a 7-game losing streak against the Tigers. It's a big opportunity, but it's also a big game. So how Florida State handles that spotlight will play a big role. Stopping the run for both teams is probably the biggest key to slowing down these offenses. Both teams are very explosive running the football. Clemson averages 5.65 yards per carry. Florida State's at 5.42. Will Shipley is an absolute stud. Trey Benson is a stud. You have two great starting running backs, two RB1s, but they also have good depth. Phil Maffa at Clemson is a good, solid option at number 2. And Lawrence Toffoli is another player for Florida State that can make big plays. So it's not like these teams are hurting for players to watch, players to compete, and players to make big plays. It's just a matter of how do they do that against really good defenses, because these front sevens are extremely talented. I think that Florida State has the edge on the defensive line. Clemson has the edge at linebacker. These are two groups that play really well, that can get to the football efficiently, and they can make big plays. Stopping the run, though, and these are two teams that run the football really well, stopping the run plays a huge role. I think when you look at the offenses too, we talk about the running game, but also the running game is going to help these two quarterbacks. I think one of them needs more help than the other one, but Jordan Travis is on track to compete for a Heisman Trophy. And that has been the talk ever since we started talking about this season, is what can Jordan Travis do to make this team better, and how can he be a Heisman Trophy candidate? Cade Klubnik, on the other hand, not exactly in that same race. I think Klubnik has the talent, but some of the decision making and the ball security doesn't exactly help. I think that there have been some issues with this offense in terms of taking care of the football, not giving the ball back to the other team, and that can't happen in a big game like this. Florida State will not give you extra opportunities to score points. They will be a disciplined team. They'll take care of the football. So you can't, even if they do, I think Florida State appears to be a little bit better at taking care of the football and not having certain unforced errors. Clemson, on the other hand, has been kind of all over the place with that. So I think the biggest thing is how do the quarterbacks take care of the football? Both of them have the ability to run. I think Jordan Travis is more of a factor in the rushing attack, but I think Cade Clement can use his legs when needed. It's hard because Clemson is still kind of getting used to this new system under Garrett Riley. They appeared to be just fine the last 2 weeks, but again, the quality of competition isn't exactly at the top of college football. So that has to you have to take that in consideration. And Florida State, obviously, you beat up on teams like Southern Miss, not exactly the strongest team either, but the win against LSU appears to be stronger by the win and by the day with whatever LSU does, because LSU has looked fairly strong since that Florida State game. So Jordan Travis, his ability to affect this game, this could be a big moment for him, another opportunity for them to make a statement and solidify their role at the top of the ACC. And then Clemson, if they lose again, that's 2 losses in September. And then you kind of have to go back to the drawing board of what is going to happen long term. But Klubnik has the talent to be able to compete with Jordan Travis. He has the talent to be able to put up good numbers against Florida State. It's just going to be a very difficult task. I think this game is loaded with plenty of playmakers. Just from recruiting, both Mike Norvell and Dabo Sweeney did a great job of bringing in talent. The difference to me is the transfer portal. And I think a lot of people have talked about this. Dabo Sweeney's refusal to use the transfer portal has hurt Clemson more than I think people realize. I think that Clemson's talent level is really good, but what happens when those players don't pan out or something out of your control? What if you get players that are really good and they get hurt? We've seen guys like Tyler Davis, Brian Bursey in the past, certain guys that are really good get hurt, and that's fine if you're recruiting talent, but if your backups aren't nearly as good as your starters, then you're kind of in a bind there. And if anything, you're looking at the transfer portal to add depth. And in this matchup, I think that's going to be the biggest difference is the depth because the talent level at the top is fairly similar. I think one of the biggest matchups that you'll see that in is Keon Coleman versus Nate Wiggins. You could also throw Johnny Wilson in there because they're both really good wide receivers. But the problem is that Nate Wiggins can only cover one of them. The secondary has their hands full with this passing attack. Jordan Travis appears to be much more comfortable as a passer, and that could play a big role in what this team can do. I think that Florida State's defense, how disruptive they can be against Clemson's offense, will play a big role as well. Because again, Clemson's offense has proven that if you are able to lock them up, they will make mistakes. Duke proved that in the first game of the season. They were able to lock down those wide receivers and they were able to create some turnovers and turn the momentum quickly in their favor. Duke won 28-7. Florida State is a much better team than Duke right now. That says something about this team, and that says something about the preparation needed for Clemson to beat them. Now, it's not like Clemson's fallen off the face of the earth. Clemson is still an extremely talented team, a team that can really put up points and compete with the best of the best. It's just you have to put together a full 4 quarters. And right now, there are questions about who can do that. Do they have the quality of talent to be able to hang with a team like Florida State? And I'm really excited to see this either way because if Florida State wins, it feels like a passing of the torch. But if Clemson wins, it's just a reminder that no matter how good anyone else is, that they're still top dog. If I have to pick here, I'm leaning Florida State. I would pick the Seminoles to win this game. They have so much talent on the offense and defense side of the balls, and they also have the depth. Going into the transfer portal is the difference here, and it's going to dictate the result of this game.